Well, I'm Ellen Weaver, founding president of Palmetto Promise Institute, and we're here with our founding chairman, Jim DeMint. Jim, great to see you today.
Ellen, it's good to be back. It's exciting what's happened over the last 5 years.
Can't believe it's been 5 years. Well, tell us a little bit about your vision for Palmetto Promise when we launched and how you see us fulfilling that vision.
Well, it was much, as you know, as much your vision as mine, but my chance before that in the House and the Senate to work all over the country, I saw that the states that were really making the most progress had a great policy organization, and they were part of a national network, a state policy network. And we really didn't have that in South Carolina in a way that was really doing serious research and putting together policies. And I recognize that state legislators have very little staff. Right. They're part-time, and it's hard for them to know what are the best practices in other states. So I had hoped, and what I've seen happen is that with an organization like Palmetto Promise and you leading it, that the legislators began to see a better way to do things, and they see how to do it. And unless they know how, and that these are proven ideas that we've pulled from best practices in other states, it's really not going to happen. So I see now a glimpse of what can happen in South Carolina, particularly what we're doing now on tax reform, what we've done on starting the more education choice. It's just really exciting to see that just with a little nudging and with a little support, our state legislators can do a whole lot more than we thought.
Hear, hear. That's great. Well, speaking of education choice, that's something I know you've been very personally passionate about for a long time. Yeah. I think I really picked up that love of education while working in your office. Talk a little bit about why you're such a big supporter of education choice.
Well, first of all, if what you're doing is not working, you might as well try something else. And it's not working, not only in South Carolina. I mean, we're close to the bottom when you compared with other 50 states. But the other 50 states are not doing that well either. If you look at other countries and how we stack up, that doesn't make any sense. We've got smart kids. The problem is that basically we've got government-run education. And I know how government runs. I've worked in it in Washington, and the more Washington gets engaged, the less efficient our schools work back here. It makes no sense. We're spending a lot of money a year, depending on the state, between $10,000 and $20,000 a year on students. I mean, we could send them to schools in a limo and give them the best private education for that. So we've got the money to do something different. And what we've seen in some other states, there are 5 states doing it right now. Arizona really started it, is what we call publicly funded education savings accounts. And they're exciting because they don't really have any government strings attached. It's really parent-run education from the ground up. And a parent could pick a public school down the street if they wanted. They could go to a private parochial Christian school. They could homeschool with other parents and pay for the supplies or computers or whatever they need. And what they don't spend rolls over. Wow. And that makes shoppers out of parents. But more importantly, Ellen, is it will attract a lot of private sector resources to education, because if you make every parent rich, in effect, when it comes to education, and they're doing their own shopping, you'll see a lot of private investors bring resources to the education field. A lot of the technology that is working in so many areas would come to education. And for me, I saw, because I was in a church for a long time that had a school. And all those classrooms that you have on Sunday for Sunday school are sitting empty during the week. And so many churches, whether it's just helping with homeschoolers or creating a venue where people can come in and have virtual education, I would love to see churches get back in the education business, because if we don't raise our children up in a way where they have a worldview, that they understand that God did create this world and in this universe, and they understand that science will prove that if you only look at science, and that perspective changes the way you look at everything. And so I'm just excited about the possibility of South Carolina moving forward like some of these other states, in making our education system as good as any in the world.
Yeah, there's no question it would transform education in this state. That's fantastic. Well, one more quick question for you on tax reform.
Yeah.
You are still doing a lot of work in Washington with the Conservative Partnership Institute up there.
Right.
And big tax reform just passed, which means tax cuts at the federal level. But unfortunately, we have a big tax mess here in South Carolina. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as you've seen and you've worked on it, and you've had some experts at Palmetto Promise work on it, is that the tax system is more convoluted than most people know. We've given so many waivers, whether it be for sales tax and property tax, that we've shifted the load of taxes to a smaller and smaller group. And so a lot of folks who are here in South Carolina are paying some of the highest taxes in the country. That doesn't make sense, because eventually the capital, the investment we need to grow our state is going to move to other states where that money is treated more favorably. And our legislators now are looking at streamlining that because of the work of Palmetto Promise, recognizing that we have to conform to this new federal tax code. In a lot of ways, this is a good opportunity for legislators to say we have to do something. Why don't we do something right? And they couldn't do that, I think, without the work that has been gone into understanding all the complexity of our tax code right now. It's not just a sales tax, a property tax, and an income tax, as you know. It's literally dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of taxes and tax districts around our state, which is it causes corruption and waste and inefficiency. So again, I'm optimistic that our state is going to take some positive step forward there, and I think that'll attract a lot more jobs to South Carolina.
Fantastic. Well, as we look forward to the next 5 years of Palmetto Promise, what do you hope to see us accomplish?
Well, to take the taxes across the finish line, to take publicly funded education savings accounts across the finish line. I'd love to see us look seriously at South Carolina, working with other states along the Atlantic to do more to develop energy, because we believe it's probably more natural gas than anything else, 50, 75 miles off our coast, which there's almost no chance of pollution, and the royalties that could come from that could help us with our infrastructure and other things we need here in South Carolina, like we see along the Gulf states. I mean, the revenue these states get literally has made them rich in a lot of ways. So South Carolina needs to be looking at ways to fund our schools, our roads, a lot of things that we're doing here. Energy might just be one of them. So I hope we'll just take a good positive look at that. I know Palmetto will be a part of looking at it. And so a lot of exciting things on the horizon.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your vision and your involvement that have gotten us to the point we are. We really appreciate it.
But thank you for your great work, and the folks at Palmetto Promise. It really is exciting what you're doing.
Thanks, Jim.